Hey, if you're listening to this, it's Dr. Zero Trust podcast. My name's Chase Cunningham or Dr. Cunningham or Dr. Zero Trust, whatever. Anyway, let's get into important stuff. I'm here with a really good friend of mine, somebody I respect immensely, Darren Guccione from Keeper. Do us a favor, and for the 6 people that listen to this thing, tell us who you are and what you do.
Sure. My name's Darren Guccione. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Keeper Security. We created a cybersecurity platform for protecting organizations against data breaches, cyber attacks, and the like.
And as you can see, we've got a cool backdrop here. You guys, Keeper, are getting into the federal space. Give everybody a little bit of background on why this is important to you, because there's a lot of folks that say, I want to sell software. You're not all just like, we're going to sell software. This is a mission thing. Let's talk about that. And also a little bit of your experience in sort of being thrown into the mix of the federal market, because a lot of people, when you get tossed in here, it's a new game.
100%. So we started our federal practice about 3.5 years ago. It began with, the quest for FedRAMP authorization, and then subsequent to that, state ramp, which is now called GovRAMP. Built a whole team out, centered around how do we protect this country. That's really first and foremost the most important thing to me. Obviously, and ancillarily, just by default, we're here to invent, create, distribute, sell software, right? But the genesis of this is understanding that there's a massive void at the government level across all federal agencies. And when I say federal, I'll extend that to SLED as well. So state, local, higher education, all really suffer from the same thing, that traditional and conventional cybersecurity solutions are ineffective against modern attackers. And the highly financed, state-sponsored cyber criminals are winning the war, and we have to do something to stop it.
So where, you've had I saw one of the briefs that you did where you're talking about kind of the issue of cybersecurity. And it was interesting to see from a tech CEO, that perspective. Do you think that we're getting better in cyber? Do you think that it's just, we're at the bottom looking up? Especially since we were just at Black Hat, in Darren's view, where is the market for cyber right now?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things happening. Number one is the progression and the speed at which products are turning into platforms. And I think that's number one, in that the layered cybersecurity approach and layering multiple products together over the last 25 years is completely ineffective against stopping a modern attacker. And it's like organizations have endpoint security or, MFA solutions or SIM solutions. There's a plethora of cybersecurity, right, that focuses on prevention, detection, remediation, and response. You've got hundreds, if not thousands, of different products. And the problem is that when you layer these together, they create security and operational gaps. And cyber criminals know that, the good ones especially do. And they're able to still penetrate large organizations that have, from the outsider's perspective, quite robust cybersecurity protection and a lot of technology inside, but they're still able to get in. And you ask, well, why is that happening? And it's because those products that are sold and built separately do not thread together by default. They have different people managing them. They have different, reporting schema, or there's a whole litany of reasons. And the genesis of this is that platforms will prevail over products any day of the week. And this is the direction that the private sector is moving into, right? When you talk about Keeper Security, we are fanatical about that. And that has to find its way into the government.
So finding its way into the government, I think you and I've collaborated on this stuff quite a bit. I've been dipped in the blood of the misery of working through the federal system.
Yeah.
You jumped in, and one of the first times we were talking about it, you were like, oh my God, this is how this actually works. Just kind of give some folks a bit of an understanding of your experience this far of being tossed into this mechanism of the hill. Is it, when you walk through the hill and you talk to people, do you feel like, oh yeah, they got this cyber thing, they're on it? Or is it holy shit, we have to figure out how to fix this?
Yeah. So first of all, I've learned a lot about the mechanics of government. I'm still learning. It's new to me. It's a completely different language.
Lots of acronyms, right?
A lot of acronyms, way too many for my brain. At the end of the day, I've come to appreciate, and look, there's what you see on TV, and there's a lot of sensationalism. There's a lot of kinetic energy going on, some positive in most people's minds or some negative in other people's minds. The bottom line is that I've come to appreciate the work that happens in the Senate, the House. And remember, like, I'm an apolitical individual. Keeper is an apolitical organization. We are here to protect everybody, both sides of the aisle, including the aisle itself, right? And so I have a profound appreciation for the work that the lawmakers do, the staff, everybody, to make these things happen and to make this country as great as it is, and it can become even better, right? And so at the end of the day, it's complex, it's gritty. And what's interesting about it is,
a good way to put it.
Yeah, like most people think like the government doesn't work, like private sector entrepreneurship, but it feels like it. It's very interesting that, yes, there's inefficiencies, right? But you could also point out in private sector, there's a lot of inefficient organizations there too, right? So the bottom line is this: we care deeply about protecting the country, and I have a profound appreciation, and so does my team, especially the federal and PubSec team at Keeper, about the inner workings of how to create laws, how to protect the country, right? How does the National Defense Authorization Act work? What happens in CISA? What happens in the White House through executive orders? And right, just really everything. There's so many layers to it. And you and I talk all the time.
Like a Rubik's Cube from hell.
Yeah, it is a multi-dimensional, multifaceted Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
100%.
Constantly moving. Like, you remember the movie Hellraiser with the thing?
Oh, yeah.
It was like
Pinhead.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, right? Yeah. So, and I think it's interesting too, just on the background side. Like, I would say you've run multiple companies, like you've kind of come, but you weren't someone that just woke up and started doing cyber. You saw a problem and you guys went after it and took care of it in the commercial side at a really big level. I even used Keeper when I was doing my dissertation. Like, I was using that to secure my research.
Yeah.
Not that anyone would steal my dissertation, but you never know. And now you're moving into the big time corporate, big time sort of state and local and federal.
Yeah.
Like, explain how that evolution's been. And I want people to understand, like, anyone, if they really care about something, can see a problem and fix it. From a CEO perspective, how does that play out?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always had, and my partner, Craig Leary, who's my co-founder, we're like brothers. We've, built 3 companies together since our early, I would say not early, but mid-20s. We've been doing this a long time. I think what this comes down to is the feeling about life, like where there's something wrong or missing, gives us that drive, like, why is this being done this way? So when we first got into cyber, my first entry in the cyber was a buddy of mine who actually works for us now. I've known him for 30 years. He leads our global channel partner program. His name's Scott Unger. He was selling RSA Secure ID, 2-factor authentication.
Double tokens.
That's right,
Yeah.
security tokens. And we started talking at my home. We were talking about it. And I started doing research. And I was like, wow, this is the future right now. Even today, if I walk up to anyone in private sector or even public sector, and I can't speak for everybody, but the majority of the people that I meet when I'm at a trade show, many of them, especially that are not IT professionals, I'm talking about everyone else, which is the majority, they know how to spell cybersecurity, but they truly don't understand what it means. And not only do they fully understand what it means, they don't know where to start to protect their organization against a data breach, right? And so the biggest problem that we have in public and private is a lack of an external lens. It's an awareness problem. It's an educational issue. So the first thing that we always have to do, and we'll talk about just the advent of how we progress, is really how do we educate? And how do we do that in mass?
Yeah, you mean like educate everybody.
Correct. Yeah. How do we do that? And we have to do it by segment, so market segment. So the problems and the capabilities are different when you talk about a small office, home office owner, or an SMB, mid-market, enterprise, Fed, SLED, and then MSP, right? Because that's a whole different microcosm, and it's big. Managed service providers and managed security service providers. And then within Fed, you have 3 different segments, DOD, IC, and CIV, civilian agencies. And they all they have different requirements. They have different language. They have different,
funding, all of it. It's all different. It's just like all over the.
So we learned a lot. Number one, it all starts with you have to build an amazing product. And I'm not here gloating, or that's like the equivalent of the sound of one hand clapping. Let people try the product for themselves. But I would just say you have to build an amazing product that solves, it solves a compelling problem, and you have to provide amazing support. If you do not get those two things right, you cannot build at scale. You will not scale your business. You cannot even build a business around it that will scale on the top line, be profitable, right? Have positive energy, and be able to bless people, stakeholders internally and externally. So that was really step number one. What are we doing? What are we building?
And from there, you sold it in the commercial space, and it was a B2C side and then B2B. And then if I talk to 100 cybersecurity companies, you guys have done the inverse of the model. Most of them build something in the skunk works. They prove that there's a market to some degree. They get a bunch of funding, and then they go after enterprise. You guys built something to solve a problem. You sold it to consumers that were using it at a really large scale, millions of people, right? And then from there moved into this other side. Was the goal to be the absolute antithesis of the market, or that just how it worked?
No, so it was counterintuitive. We built an iPhone app that was, to serve as a ubiquitous digital vault for storing passwords, notes, lists, private information, launched on iPhone first, right? And for the first 4.5 years of our business, we were only B2C, right? And that first pillar, which was zero knowledge, meaning the encryption key management and generation and all of that, is done client side, not vendor side. Okay. Therefore, we'd never have the ability to decrypt and view a person's vault.
So even if you got breached, there's nothing for them to get.
Always stores an encrypted binary. They don't have the keys. The keys are generated client side, right, on the fly. And there's a whole technology around that. And then we started getting requests. I work in an organization, public and private sector. We need a multi-tenant version of this solution. We love it, right? So password security became the first prong. And the reason we did that was because when there's a data breach, between 70 and 85% of the time, depending on sector, it's a result of either weak, stolen, right, login credentials, passwords, or secrets, right? So at the end of the day, I always say, if you want to have a cybersecurity strategy, it starts with password security. And then password security with respect to identity and access management. Identity and access management means something very simple. I like to sort of reduce things down so people can understand it, is making sure that the right person on the right device from an authorized location has access to authorized website systems and applications. That's basically it. And then within that, you've got a multitude of technologies. Well, the one that we started looking at was privileged access management. And what we saw and what we kept hearing from the industry was, well, why is PAM relegated just to the IT professionals, right? How do we extend this outward to have this type of visibility, security, control, compliance, reporting, all this, right? Role-based access control policies and everything, to extend it outward to protect every person on every device in the entire organization. And that's what we started building. We were doing that several years ago. So we had to say, okay, well, what prongs are going to be the fundamentals of this application and this cybersecurity portfolio, which we call a platform, right? So think about a platform being, take the core aspects of identity access management and unify them into one platform to solve this problem.
Yeah, and you guys have built pretty far beyond that, because if it used to be passwords, but now it is platform.
Yeah, so it started with passwords to protect humans, and then IT professionals and DevOps engineers transact with what we call secrets, right, to protect infrastructure, CI/CD pipelines, those tools. That was our secrets manager. So that's the second pillar. Then imagine having those assets together. So you've got the passwords and you have the secrets inside of a vault environment that's running on all of your devices. Now you have to have secure access, but we don't want a VPN. We want it completely integrated and protected with zero trust and zero knowledge security. And that becomes what we call Zero Trust Network Access. And that was really three things. So the Connection Manager was the third solution, and that was connections, tunneling, and RBI, remote browser isolation. Then when you have access as an engineer and you're on that machine, what happens when you have to change local admin, which happens all the time, right? We call it endpoint privilege manager.
EPM.
Okay, EPM, that's the new name. It used to be enterprise password management. It's now EPM. And it's basically PEDM, which is privilege elevation and delegation management. And then that was it. So you have basically password management, secrets management, you have ZTNA, and then you have EPM, which is endpoint privilege management. And that's it. And then we layered in the pane of glass, which was a whole multitude of other things, which was dark web monitoring, compliance reporting, advanced reporting and alerts, and a litany of other things like session recording and all that to thread it all together.
And so now it's a platform. So you mentioned Zero Trust. What is your, especially from running a company and doing the things you're doing, what's your view on Zero Trust? And, no holds barred, Zero Trust in the federal space. How do you see it? Because I'm a poison well, right?
Yeah. So with Zero Trust, I think the key for us was, how do you protect an organization against horizontal or lateral movement? How do you do that? So somebody gets into the HR department and permeates across the entire environment, right? Well, in order to stop that, you need to have device and user level authorization, authentication, and encryption, right? That's number one. Role-based access control policies, and making sure that we focus on something called least privilege access, or zero standing privilege. And that's the last piece of the puzzle, which is this PEDM piece or EPM piece, endpoint privilege manager, is that theoretically no user's access, especially a privileged user, should have persistent or infinite access rights. They should get access to some type of environment or system or network for a specific point in time. And then once they're done, that access is revoked.
Session.
Completely.
Yeah.
That's it. So you may have a subcontractor that comes in, to a data center that needs access to a particular environment. 45 minutes, they do their work, access revoked, and you're all set. And everything that they're doing, by the way, is tracked, monitored, verified, and recorded down to the keystroke.
It works well on MSP model. Oh, you've got other stuff to do, and I like to keep things moving on the podcast. But I've been at a whole bunch of shows, and I've seen how people run their organizations. I would say you are probably one, if not one of a very few select group of business leaders that I see on the floor with their people in the trenches, shaking hands, kissing babies, doing work. Why? Like, you don't have to be there, right? Why aren't you off in some suite just, chilling and enjoying the good life? Why are you down there?
Well, look, I'm in the trenches with my team, and I'm in it with, at trade shows. You probably see me talking to customers all the time. First of all, that is probably some of the most important work as founders that we'll ever do, is to determine what are the critical unmet needs of our existing customers and prospects, right? The market as a whole, and how do we build the roadmap and check and refine and balance the roadmap to deliver and fulfill those needs at speed. That's it. There's no better way to do it, right? Now, I could rely on, we have a fantastic product management team. Awesome, right? But being in it, it's a whole different ballgame. It's almost like the analogy that I would use is like, when you see the movie Gladiator and there's Caesar at the top of the hill or the mountain watching the battle below, and then you see the movie 300 and Leonidas is in the battle with his team. Like, that's what we're like. And we wouldn't do it any other way.
And there's just exceptional value to that. And I think, just from the military perspective, I don't know if you're reading the books like Leaders Eat Last and some of those, but it stands out, right? Because when I've been around and I see the people that are on the floor, and like I say, there's you and maybe one or two others, like, you guys are in it and doing the work. And I think just from the than not being the typical, CEO that's just off closing deals in some suite and whatever. It's good to see somebody actually in there being part of it. So for
Thank
whatever,
you.
yeah, I mean, I talk with so many companies and I see it. I make it a point to walk the floor at every show that I go to, and I take note. People don't realize it. I walk around, I'm like, nope, no leadership, no leadership, no leadership. But every single time I walk by Keeper, you and Craig are either there or you're in the booth with a customer. There's a difference. That's probably why you guys are doing what you're doing. So,
Well, look, thank you for that. They teach us a ton, because we're listening to their pain points and they evolve. I mean, they're not always the same. New things evolve, new attack vectors evolve, new technology. It's really helpful for us in shaping our roadmap. And it also it shows that we care, spending time with people. At the end of the day, I always tell my team, I tell my kids the same thing. They don't care about how much I know. They care about how much I care.
good way to
At
put
the
it.
end of the day, people care about how much you care, right? Your stakeholders. So how do you do that? You have to spend time with them. You can't manufacture that, right? So we will always be that way. And does it take more hours out of our day? Absolutely. But do we care if we put 16 hours a day in? No, because we love what we do. It's not work, it's fun. I mean, I haven't changed one bit in that regard. So the person that pulls me back is my wife. Do you know what time it is? You've been in your office since 6. It's 11 p.m. What's going on in here?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'm having a blast. I don't have clocks in my office, right? But yeah, it's just really important to us.
That's huge. Well, and the last, I always like to, especially when I have the opportunity to talk with somebody, it's, of your ilk, the last thing I like to lead people with is if you're going to talk to maybe somebody coming up or a business leader or something like that, if you were going to say, look, don't do this, what would be the one thing to tell them don't do? Everybody talks about do this and how to be amazing, whatever else. Yeah. I want to know, what should somebody not do? And that is usually people have to think about that for a second. Well, wait, what would I tell people not to do? Because you've probably been through it. We can save someone some misery.
If you're an entrepreneur and you truly love what you do, you found your passion, this is what you love doing, I would say don't quit, no matter what, because it gets really hard and gritty. But if you love what you do, you won't quit. People, founders quit for 2 reasons. 1, they give up, okay? Or 2, they run out of money, right? So I would just say, no matter what, if you believe in your convictions and this is what makes you happy, do not quit.
That's a great one. Darren Guccione, CEO, Keeper Security. I don't ever endorse products because I don't do that, but I will say with 100% honesty, because I tell people the truth, I've used Keeper. So whatever value that provides, take that for what it's worth. Anyway, look up Keeper Security. Great people doing good stuff. We're sort of near Capitol Hill, as obvious, the fact that I had to actually put on grown-up clothes. And
he made me wear a suit today.
Yeah, all right.
I took the tie off, but he made me wear a suit.
That's how I roll. I make people dress up. Anyway, look it up. Talk to Keeper. Darren, man, thanks for coming.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
And thank you, everybody.